good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here. I was going to say to see you. I can't see many videos. It's always nice to look at people's faces. I can see one gentleman. Thank you very much for putting your video up. That's really nice to see a face. Oh, we've got some more faces popping up now. That's good. Excellent. So welcome to our session this afternoon. Delighted to be walking you through. Yeah, really, how do we use AI in an effective job search? So just before we move forward, I think probably Karima has mentioned all that is necessary to say about me. I have popped my LinkedIn URL in chat. I will do so again at the end of the session. I'm really happy to connect with you, stay in touch. I think I've probably got about 6,000 global connections. So if I do know somebody that might help and support you moving forward, perhaps in terms of an information gathering conversation with somebody, then I'm really happy to try and connect you. So again, do try and make the most of contacts and connections in that way. I've got a strong background in international work. So yes, I've been internationally coaching for 20 years. I'm a qualified career coach, intercultural coach, and an executive coach as well. And I run my own business. So I've got a company called SW Career Coaching Limited. You can see the big SW there, not very imaginative company name, but my business. But I am also employed by one of the world's leading career coaching companies called LHH. So I work for them for 4 days a week and in parallel run my own business in the evenings and on a Friday, sometimes even at the weekends. So yeah, we're working hard nowadays, aren't we? So yeah, delighted. This is the second session I've run for Graduate Mentor. I think there's an earlier recording of my session around cultural awareness as well, if you're interested in checking out on that one as well. So today we're going to be talking all about AI, and I'm hoping that these are going to be some of the outcomes that you are going to experience today. Nobody, I don't think, anywhere in the room today, I hope, is going to call themselves an expert in AI. Least of all me, because AI is changing literally hourly. There are new apps coming up, new, innovations, new uses. So, I'm here sharing, my knowledge and a certain amount of expertise, I hope, with you. If you have, other uses of AI related to job search that you think might be helpful to share with others, then again, please do pop your thoughts into chat messaging. That will be really helpful. So what I'm hoping that you walk away at 2 o'clock UK time, believing and knowing and appreciating is this idea of seeing AI as your thinking partner. Okay, so this is moving away from the use of AI as a sort of tactical tool, just something that can provide you with an immediate, quick answer around give me create my super CV or help me with a cover letter. When I work with graduates at the moment, when we start our conversations, that often seems to be where most people are purely using AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and others, but those are probably the main ones. So I'd like to shift you to almost using an AI tool, whichever one is your preferred, or you might choose one or two. I tend to use either Claude or ChatGPT, but those are just my preferences. But to use it more strategically going forward and to use AI to support you in all aspects of your job search strategy, from the first stage around career exploration, through to networking, through to obviously interviews, and even your first 90 days in your new job. So yeah, I hope that you'll see that you really need to use a very personalised approach to job search today. You can't just have, one standard sort of CV, cover letter, obviously. You can't have one approach to job search. You can't just rely on, graduates' adverts or recruitment agents. We've got to do a whole range of things, and we need to be particularly proactive and be reaching out to future employers directly is probably going to be one of the main routes to getting a being successful and getting a role. So I'm really, want you to move, sort of think that by the time you leave this session, you are really the pilot of your own future. I love travel, so I want you to see yourself, you are in that sort of pilot driving seat, and not relying on, graduate scheme applications, really making AI the co-pilot on that journey. And then finally, let's be creative. Careers have really changed. You're probably aware it's no longer the go to university, then have a job for 30, 40 years, and then retire. Very much the model now is going to be, yes, we go to university still, although I think, numbers going will reduce in coming years. We start working, we maybe take some time out to do some more study or to go traveling, maybe do some voluntary work, and then we come back to perhaps a different type of career, then take some more time out again for those activities, and possibly do some, be self-employed alongside those things. So yes, the world is very much more a mosaic of work experiences, learning, and leisure. And the sooner you kind of embrace that idea of owning your own career and future, the more successful you are going to be perfectly honest. So as Karima suggested, what I'm going to run through some slides with you. There are some questions in those slides, so I would like you to be able to find chat messaging. Now that we're sharing the screen, for me, you have to move your cursor to the top of the screen, I have to do anyway, to find chat messaging, and put your comments in there. As we've said, if you've got any questions as well throughout the session, please pop them into chat. I'll try and keep an eye on them and answer them at the time, but otherwise we'll wait until the end and I'll gather those all together. I'm very happy to answer any questions you have going on there. Yeah, thank you. Pop your comments and questions there, as we've said. So a question for you. So a chance to find chat messaging straight away, please. What's your sense of what percentage of jobs do you think are filled through relationships, through knowing somebody in the organisation where there is a vacancy? Any ideas? Pop your thoughts in chat. Thank you very much. Can see a few of you popping some thoughts in there. Great, well done, brilliant. Excellent, well done. Yep, lovely. You are all absolutely hitting the mark. Perfect. So, if you said something like 60 to 70%, then you're, pretty much on the mark. Absolutely. What I want to ensure that you're aware of is that, it's very much about knowing people. It's about relationships that you can forge, that you can create in the places where you would like to work going forward, or being self-employed and trying to build client relationships within organizations. That's going to be your main way. Even as a graduate, that's still going to be your main way of securing a role going forward. So again, just wanting to emphasize, don't rely on graduate schemes, graduate adverts, etc. Be proactive yourself. So thank you for answering the question, those of you who did. So set the stage well. You know what you've got to do. So really, the outline of my presentation revolves around 5 different steps where we're going to be integrating AI in each of these steps. And you will see my slides are quite wordy, and I don't make any apologies for that. I've chosen to put quite a lot of words on the slides that are coming up, because I wanted to provide you with almost a guidebook for each of these 5 stages of job search. And a lot of the words I've included are real life prompts that you can put into whichever is your AI tool of choice. So as I've said, I've put all of the prompts into ChatGPT. And at each stage, we're going to look at one particular, we'll look at stage 1, which is career exploration. I'll talk you through it. And then I'm going to hop over to show you a search that I did on ChatGPT with a prompt in there, and see what information AI came back with. So you can see hopefully how valuable integrating AI into your approach can be, and can become your kind of thinking partner and your buddy. So there are 5 main stages to job search. Some people miss the first one, that whole career exploration. So before you can create a really good CV, you have to know a lot about yourself. Before you can start to apply for roles, you have to know, well, where am I interested in working? What sort of sectors, industry sectors interest me, obviously. Given what I've studied at university or college, what am I drawn to? Which aspects of my course have I particularly liked? Which knowledge areas would I want to kind of use going forward? So we're going to talk about career exploration. Once we kind of know some of the directions we want to take, then we can create a really nice tailored and personalized marketing documents. So obviously does include your CV, but it particularly includes your LinkedIn profile. Super important. Most employers will be looking for you and doing searches on LinkedIn, obviously. Cover letters, cover emails, more likely, LinkedIn messages, all of that's part of your marketing approach. So again, we've got to make sure it sings a consistent story and has some consistent messages there about what you want to do and the problems that you can solve for future organisations. So that's really important. It's not just about telling them, the aspects of the course that you've really enjoyed at uni. It's more about what have you done that might be valuable to a future organisation. Third stage is then going to be getting into some research around the market. So again, this is a stage many people miss out on, don't do. They jump straight into applying for things. Whereas if you do some research, you try and have some information gathering meetings, conversations with people who are doing jobs that you are interested in or are working in sectors like pharmaceuticals or the financial markets. If you can have conversations with them, you're going to be able to find out much more about their job, what they like, what they don't like. And again, you're going to be able to tailor your approach and maybe even get them to be able to put your CV through directly to their talent team. Sorry, somebody's just got their line unmuted at the moment. Just going to double check where we're up to. Yeah, just going to mute the line just so it keeps it nice and clear. Thank you. Fourth step is obviously, yes, then we move into applying, particularly via your network contact, at 70% being so important. But we also want to be applying via adverts, recruitment agents, making a direct speculative approach in a nice, well-researched way as well. And then finally, we've got our fifth stage around interviews and first 90 days. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's get into action then and think about how AI is going to help us. So this idea of using any AI tool as your thinking partner, and that's often how I would characterize a coach. So you're almost starting to see your AI tool as your coach, your coaching buddy, your coaching partner. Coaching can be quite expensive with a real life person. So actually, this is a really good way that AI is democratizing coaching and giving you the opportunity to get help and support and advice and insights which you might not have thought to tap into. Many of you might not have thought of having a career coach, but actually you can use your AI tool like that. So some quick things here on screen that I just wanted to set the stage with, some quick tips. You may be using these already, but just to make sure of that. When you're putting a prompt into AI, take ChatGPT just as an example, do be as specific as you possibly can be. Give as much information about your context. So, what university degree you've done, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, go into detail, be very precise and exact about what you want your AI thinking partner to do for you. Tell them what role you want them to play for you. So you'll see on a lot of my prompts, it will say, acting as an expert career coach, provide me with. Try to be polite in the way that you ask your AI tool to work. Please provide me with, again, is very important. Try to ask open-ended questions, obviously, rather than ones that are just a yes or no answer. So please provide me with a range of possibilities. Write in AI using your natural language. Okay, how you think and talk is important. And you can, in your prompts, define your tone. So particularly if you were asking your thinking partner to help you with your cover letter or whatever, then, write in my voice, professional but warm, or, add some humor, or, whatever, however you want it to write, then again, really explain to AI the role you want it to take. And you can even ask AI, obviously, to create the prompt for you, acting as an expert prompt engineer, write a prompt that will, help with the decision making, for example. So if you don't know what prompt to write, ask AI to create that for you. Hopefully those are fairly, obvious things, but, there may be a nugget there that you want to embrace more going forward. So let's start with step one then, career exploration. How can we use AI to help you with this? I'd love to see in chat, or even somebody who wants to be brave and talk out loud, who has used an AI tool so far, or AI tools for career exploration? What have you asked AI to do to help you? So if you're not sure what career, what job you want to do next, or what sector you want to work in, has anybody used any AI tools to help with that exploration? Can you provide any examples?
Just whilst people are typing their answers, we've got a question from Abhishek.
Yeah.
The recruiters say they do not make use of AI in your job application. Is this legit?
It's a good question.
Mhm.
I don't. I mean, there is no law that from a legit. Is it lawful to put that or not? I don't think there is any sort of absolute legal kind of measure around that. But yes, I am seeing that very much happening with many organisations, that they have both they request that you don't use AI. They will also have tools within their systems that are trying to filter out AI created CVs, cover letters as well. There are some immediate giveaways. Many CVs I read and cover letters have very, I want to say highfalutin, have very sort of posh words, words I think, gosh, would you really use that if you were speaking naturally, if you were writing, even if you were writing professionally, would you use that word? And that's an immediate giveaway that I think it's probably been AI driven. Obviously, there are AI tools like Humanize that you could use to humanize your CV and your cover letter. But as I'm going to talk when we get to the stage of marketing documents, I would really, really recommend, particularly nowadays with CV and cover letter, you try and write that yourself. You start by writing it, yourself, because that is what employers want. They want the natural you, the normal you. They don't want somebody who's using posh words now, who when you start working for them, you're not being congruent. You're not writing in a similar way. Okay, let's have a little look if there's anything else there in chat. Yes, thank you. Asking AI help me check the match percentage to the job description. Okay, yes, that's fair enough. Used AI in structuring cover letter. Keen to be specific. All right, so it sounds as though most of you have still just been using AI for step two, for the marketing of yourself. Whereas, and remember, I did say I know there's a lot of words on this screen, and I'm not expecting you to read these in detail now, but I hope it will help you when you get a copy of these slides following up from the session. I would really encourage you to use AI to first of all help it find out what are going to be the right sort of jobs for me. What sectors might I most, relate to? So on the left-hand side of the screen, on each of these 5 stages, you'll see I've kind of given you some coaching advice and words, and then on the right-hand side, with those arrows, I've put in at least 4 AI prompts that you could test out on ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, whichever one you want to use. Obviously, tailor the prompts for your particular situation, but they will help you to perhaps find new roles, new sort of careers that maybe you hadn't already considered. So at this stage, first and foremost, you want to be thinking for yourself. So before we tap into AI, try to just think in your own head to begin with. So don't just assume AI is immediately going to give you answers. think first of all, and literally jot something down or write it on your phone. What subjects are you interested in? Which of the challenges have you particularly sort of relished at university? And if you think about your course, was there any moment where you felt really in flow and you really enjoyed what you were doing? Was it when you were researching a topic? Was it when you were presenting, back to your lecturers or whatever? Was it when you were doing something extracurricular, outside of the course and you were organising an event? What was it? What was the challenge and how, what skills were you using at that point? What are your hobbies? What do you get pleasure from? What do you enjoy doing? If you love gaming, what is it about gaming? If you love, as my son does, online poker, what is it about that? Strategic elements. Yeah, that kind of, sense of learning and trying to kind of, be better. What do you like to do? How do you relax? What re-energizes you? What is it about that you really like? So start with some words, some reflections yourself. And then with that information, then you could feed that along with, as I say, what are your main 2 or 3 skills that you like using? So do you like research? Do you like analysis? Do you like writing? I did an English degree. I love, I do like writing. Obviously, I love reading. I like listening, questioning. So yes, write down in AI, what are your main skills? What are you interested in? Are there any particular work sectors that draw you? Are you interested in financial services? Do you love the interest in the charity sector or the public sector? So again, context. Give the prompt as much information as you can, and then ask it what sort of roles, what sort of career, acting as my expert career coach, what sort of roles would best suit me? So you can see on the right hand side, I've given you some examples of that. I'm a recent graduate in history and politics, love meeting new people, I enjoy outdoor activities. Can you offer me some practical advice for actionable steps that I can take? Etc. So just let me pause. Candido's got their name up. Candido, please ask a question. Unmute and ask your question.
Hi, hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
My problem is I'm using AI, but the
Mm.
problem is that I'm almost to finish my master degree, but I don't have relevant experience in the fields that I would like to apply a job. How can the AI can help me?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I've got an example very similar to that that I can share with you. In fact, let me share screens, Candido, and we'll just go over to the document. Here it is. Okay, so as I said earlier, what I did was I fed into ChatGPT some of those prompts that I've included on the slides, and then I've shown you what does ChatGPT come back with. So Candido, to your point, you want to get into a sector where you don't currently have much or if any experience at all, and how are you going to bridge that gap? In other words, I would literally, if I were you, I would create a prompt like that. I would say something like, acting as my expert career coach, please provide advice in my situation where I've recently completed or I'm completing a master's in dot dot dot, whatever it is. I would like to have a future career in financial services or wherever it is that you want to get into, particularly as I don't know, business analyst. If there's any particular roles that you're interested in, please provide me with advice and a realistic plan as to the steps I need to take to enter that environment. And you will find that it will give you some really helpful, maybe some learning you need to do. There might be some volunteering, some small projects, unpaid, you might be able to do that, again, help you perhaps in working in a startup, unpaid initially, Candido, to build the experience that you need to be able to move, more concretely into that environment. So just to the point, here on screen was the prompt around somebody who is, not as far in their thinking as Candido, so don't even know what they might want to do, as that might be the case for some of you on the call today. So recent graduate, history and politics. This person knows from the stuff they've done at uni, they love meeting new people, they like outdoor activities. What can I do? So yeah, here you've got some job roles, some areas that might combine the history, politics, and people with the outdoor interests. So, you know, when I was working with a graduate recently, this was like, oh, I hadn't thought of some of those areas. That's helpful. Some of them they had thought of, but some they hadn't. Then the moving into, yeah, you need to have some information gathering conversations. Who could you have those with? What sort of questions might you ask that person? Are there any sort of, you know, immediate short-term activities, ways that you could get more experience in this area? You know, how could you build a CV that was relevant, and so on. So yeah, that's one immediate kind of example of using AI for career exploration. I hope that's helpful for you. So I'm just going to hop back to the slides and just pause for a moment and just check in. Let's just have a look. Use my career exploration. Great, well done, Alice. Thank you very much. So we're inspired already on the on using this to see how it can help you. So any challenge that you're having, then yeah, really use it as your buddy to explore that and think about how it can provide you with those stepping stones, as Candido was saying. So second step is the classic one. It sounds as though most of you, if you have been using AI, have been using it for this, you know, this area, for your CVs, for your cover letters, cover emails. And this is the one, as I say, on the left-hand side in the blue, you know, this is the coaching advice I'm giving you. You know, you've got to avoid sounding like an AI machine, sounding robotic, in other words, using words that just don't sound normal. And this is the place where, you know, possibly, you know, parents might be helpful, or you know, others who are in the workplace already, you know, asking them, if you've got a CV or a cover email that you're intending to send, just say to them, have a read of this. Does this sound like a normal human being? That's the acid test that you're looking to check out. So begin with what I would call the productive struggle. Begin with a blank sheet of paper yourself and try to write the words yourself, particularly the cover email. That's got to really be personalised. Cover email is going to be 3 paragraphs normally. A paragraph about them, the organisation, and what you know about them. Why are you interested in them? What have you found out that's made you curious about them or excited about them? The second paragraph, what is it about you that matches to what this organisation needs? And then the third paragraph is a short us paragraph, hoping there might be time for an opportunity to have a conversation together. Graduate job applications, yes, I appreciate there are certain, you know, application questions that they ask you as well, which is another way of trying to sift through all the AI driven answers. So again, try to write your own answers first of all. Don't rely on AI with this. Start by understanding your own voice, as I say there on the left-hand side. Try to identify what's your style. So don't use overused words like motivated, you know, I'm really hardworking, or I'm really enthusiastic. Everybody describes themselves like that. But think about, well, what are more your ingredients? Are you patient? Are you very, you know, got high energy? Are you, you know, I don't know, caring of others? Are you reflective? Think about choosing some words, and then you'll be able to feed those into AI, because you want to have products coming out that reflect your style. So use it for, you know, getting a sense of the outline, but not for soul. The soul is what you've got to integrate in here. You've got to personalize things. And you must, in your CV, add in your own personalized examples, and you've really got to quantify results wherever you can. So we saw already in the chat messaging on screen various prompts that people are already putting in this area. So I've included some here on the right-hand side of the screen, where you can use AI to help you, obviously to help bridge some gaps. So the first top one, for example, I'd like a direct comparison between my CV and the job profile, you know, below. So you incorporate in your CV, obviously take out your personal information in terms of your address, and then include and upload your job profile. So please provide any gaps in my skills, experience and knowledge and languages, and then give me some recommendations to address these gaps. So use AI to help you if it identifies you've got skills gaps. What sort of courses could you do? How might you build experience? A bit like, we were just talking about previously, when you haven't got the necessary skills for the sector or the role that you want to go into, again, ask AI to help you identify which courses would be useful and so forth. Let's have a little look if there's anything else there. So, the third one down, give me 5 LinkedIn headline ideas for a recent maths graduate interested in sustainable finance roles, which sound ambitious but grounded. Again, you're trying to guide AI to know what sort of tone you want to take. You don't want to sound too arrogant with your headline underneath your name on your LinkedIn profile. Okay, again, the bottom one, review this cover letter for clarity, conciseness and tone. Make it sound confident, but not robotic. Okay, so let's just pop over to my examples over here on screen. So we move to stage 2. Let's just arrive there. So marketing documents. So this was the prompt I put in. As an experienced career coach, how can a recent graduate use AI tools to best develop their CV and LinkedIn profile without sounding like a robot? And yeah, so again, I'm almost using again AI as that thinking partner. So it's advising you, think about what your voice is, what's your tone, just as I was saying that to you. Use specific words: curious, I'm very driven, I'm thoughtful, I'm collaborative, not just enthusiastic, hardworking. That's what everybody says. So be specific. Again, it's giving you advice around, how best to use AI to build your CV. For LinkedIn, how might you use it? Making sure that you are, putting authenticity into any AI drafts. And that's what you want to see AI as, just a draft. It's drafting a CV, drafting a cover letter. We've got to make sure it's got your real voice, it's authentic. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I often will work with clients and recommend using JobScan or just putting the CV and the advert in there, as we've seen. So yes, those are, that's just giving you hopefully insights into how ChatGPT responds to that and gives you lots of ideas. There's the maths one that I mentioned at the end, and it came out, that's a really good headline that somebody could have as a maths graduate who's interested in sustainable finance, analytical, impact driven. Great. Okay, so let me just swap over again. Let's go back to our slide deck and let's move to the third stage then. So, sorry, step 3 is research the market. So if you remember, I said this was very much one of the steps that people often miss out on. You rush into applying for jobs straight away without doing and being proactive, first of all. So trying to find out more about the sort of roles that you're interested in. What does somebody who's doing the job, what do they like? What do they dislike about it? What's going on in certain organizations? What problems are organizations facing that you and possibly your skills might be able to solve? That's what you're trying to use AI to help you with at this third stage. So you're trying to identify, as it says on the left-hand side, companies and organizations in a target sector, so such as the retail sector, or in the public sector or the charity sector. You're trying to find, well, which companies or organizations are in those sectors that I'm interested in, and also try and find contacts to have some information sharing conversations, meetings with them. And then also, as part of your research, you might be trying to volunteer or do a project for free. As I was saying earlier to Candido, this is where this comes in as well at this stage, to see if you can get some work experience. Matt, you might be able to shadow somebody in that organisation that you're trying to target, because you don't quite have the skills or knowledge yet, but again, you want to show your initiative and show willing. So on the right hand side, we've got again 4 prompts that you could use. So we're using AI to get some research. So the top one, there is all about which industries are expected to grow in the next 3 years that value graduates with a background in ... whatever you've done, background in geography, background in, you know, mechanical engineering, whatever. List 10 organisations hiring in this area based in, well, I'm in the northwest of England, I'm in Manchester, so hence I thought I would put that into my prompt and see what comes out. Second one then, create a list of 5 questions that I could ask. So this is if you've managed, and this is an activity I would really, really encourage. If you can get 15 minutes time with somebody who is working in a company or in an organisation, a public sector body or a charity that you're interested in, if you could ask them, could I possibly have 10 to 15 minutes of your time? I'd just like to get your advice about what it's like to work in that role or in that organisation. And they say, yeah, okay, I'm happy to do that. You know, I can help you. You need to be prepared and organised to make the most of that 15 minutes. So AI is a really great thinking buddy to create some good questions. And that's what the second prompt is all about. And then the third prompt, Candido you could use something like this one to help you. So as an expert career coach, provide guidance on which volunteering opportunities would be most useful for a graduate wanting to secure a role in, well, I've said in human resources because that's my background, but it could be wanting to secure a role in finance, in IT, in legal, you know, whatever it might be that you're drawn to, you could replace your particular context into that prompt. And then another one that you might use, Candido, would be the fourth one. Provide examples of mini projects that I could complete to demonstrate interest in graduate ... jobs. Well, here I put data analytics jobs, but there could be other roles that you're wanting to apply for. What sort of mini projects could you do to build a portfolio and demonstrate your interest? Again, let's hop over. Let's see how ChatGPT specifically answered one or two of those prompts. So there's our research the market. So this was, I'm sorry, I'm just pausing. Candido, please come in. I'm listening.
Yeah, one last question, sorry. Are these slides then available for afterwards or okay, so I will receive on my email?
I think that's going to be right. Yes, Karima will be, she'll be sharing these after the session. So you'll get all of those slides with all those prompts in there. And also this document as well, the PDF that I'm showing you now as well, to again, hopefully inspire you to use some of these AI prompts going forward. All right.
Amazing, thank you, thank you.
Brilliant, super duper, well done. So, as I say, just bringing to life then that third stage, research the market. This was the first prompt, the one about the 5 questions for the 15-minute conversation, making that a really practical, useful conversation. And these are, you know, it's amazing. If I had to write without going on to ChatGPT, what would be 5 questions I would coach my clients to use? It genuinely would be these 5 questions. What does a typical day look like? You know, what sort of projects do you get involved in? What tools or skills do you use a lot? Because again, you want to be thinking, do I have those? Do they appeal to me? Thirdly, how did you get started? You know, is there anything, you know, I can learn from your prior experience? And how would you describe the company culture or the organization culture? And then finally, you know, any other resources or communities you recommend for somebody, you know, trying to break into this area. So really helpful 5 questions. And then, you know, also second prompt I put in here was the one that, as I've said, might help Candido, you know, acting as an expert career coach, provide guidance on which volunteering opportunities would be most useful for a graduate wanting to secure a role in, as I've said, human resources, finance, IT, wherever it would be. And yeah, it gives you lots of insights, places to look for volunteering positions. So Reach Volunteering is one of the UK's best sites to find open volunteering positions. And volunteering is a great way to secure your next job, a paid piece of employment. Because you might end up getting employed by the charity itself. And if not, then you've got that current experience on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile. It's viewed very positively by future employers. So really, really encourage this as a strategy for people. yeah, here are some other ways, mentoring groups this person might get involved in. And then lastly, there was that third prompt about the mini projects the person could what sort of projects could they get involved in that would show an interest in a role in data analytics, again, to show initiative and motivation. And it shows you exactly which tools to use, what sort of things you could, topics you could use to apply for a mini project. And again, this is the sort of thing employers love. They like to see that you've gone above and beyond, that you're using some of those skills that you gained at uni and putting them into practice. And you can, again, showcase them on your CV or even have a little portfolio presentation of those things that you would send to an employer or share at a meeting, an interview. So I hope that's helpful on that third step. Okay, let's go back. Fourth step then is we finally get round to applying. So you can see there's a lot of preparation that needs to go on, a lot of personalization of this process before we actually literally get to applying for jobs. You need to use a wide range of approaches. So don't just, as I said at the beginning, please don't just rely on grad scheme, openings, just looking at graduates, job boards, etc. You need to be looking much more broadly. You particularly need to be thinking about your network. Who do you know, or who do other people that you know? This is where parents can sometimes be helpful, or people who are a little bit further on in their careers. Who do they know who are working at the moment in the type of sectors or even companies or charities or public sector bodies that you might be interested in, who might be able to put your CV directly through to the talent team rather than it going through an applicant tracking system, which we really want to avoid because the algorithm in those systems are still pretty unsophisticated, and a lot of the right candidates, in my experience, get rejected instead of being taken forward for interview. So we're trying to get around those things and get directly to the recruitment team of the organisation. Okay. So yes, and second point that I'm making just on that left-hand side, sort of the coaching piece for you, if you are filling out graduate application forms, and obviously there are often questions in there where it might say, describe a leadership experience you've had that isn't mentioned on your CV, then again, don't immediately jump to AI to answer the question. Try to think for yourself, have that productive struggle to begin with. Think about well, what experiences have I got? Where have I used my leadership skills in the Scouts, or in, I don't know, something that you've done to set up a band at university? Whatever you've done, try to think, oh, okay, that might be interesting to a future organisation, something that might differentiate you from other people. Then my prompts on the right-hand side are, again, you're starting to apply. So the top one, create a 4-week job search plan for a recent graduate seeking a role in, let's say, seeking a role in technology that includes networking, online applications, learning, and outreach. I can give this 10 hours per week. So use AI to help you almost create a little project plan for the way that you are going to be applying for your jobs. You could ask it to create a list of organisations with early career programmes in, the pharmaceutical sector, for example, and include internships. Yes, of course, you could ask it on the third one to improve the clarity of the answer as to why you would be best suited to a role as trainee accountant. Again, this is where you've got to answer questions in an application form. Again, make sure you say, make the tone professional but suitable for that of a recent graduate. Okay, so and copy in, whatever a recent graduate in whatever your subject has been. And then finally, you might ask, as an example, you might ask AI for its advice about which are the right recruitment agents. In this example, I've said for entry-level human resources roles. As a recent geography graduate, help me to prepare a script to call up these recruitment agents to find out about open positions, because that's what you need to do. Don't just send your CV to a recruitment agent. You need to ring them up and introduce yourself. So let me pause. Got a message coming up here. Let me just see what's going on. Yep, thank you, Ben. So Ben's saying in chat, recent MSc graduate with no prior work experience. I've noticed most job postings require a minimum of 1 year of experience. From an HR perspective, do we still stand a chance if we apply for these roles? You're right, it's a challenge. The best way that you're going to get around that challenge, Ben, is to try to think, well, from my academic experience, what matches against the job posting? You know, where have I, even if I've not been paid for it, I'm not being employed, have I gained any of the skills that the job role is looking for? So that's the first thing, and emphasize those in your CV and your cover letter, your cover email. Secondly, you might want to try to reach out directly to the person in the recruitment team and talk to them and explain to them, look, you know, I've done my master's, I haven't had specific experience, but I have got transferable, relatable experience from doing both my undergraduate and the master's course, which kind of builds up to, you know, a number of years of experience. So you're trying to explain it's an equivalence. You might equally want to be volunteering, as I've just been talking about earlier in stage 3. If you could be actively volunteering at the moment and building skills in the area that you want to get into, or offering those skills to do it for free in an organisation, so not just volunteering in a charity, often that will also substitute for having had the requirement of that year's experience, Ben. So the bottom line is try to be as proactive as you can to be demonstrating that you're getting those skills, even if you haven't clocked up a year yet. I hope that helps. Just conscious of time, I'm just going to hop over to our deck here, and I'll just show you one example here of well, I've got a couple of examples on the applying stage, 4th stage. Here's the 4-week job search plan for you, just to show you kind of the benefit of using AI around this. Again, it shows you how much time to use on each of these activities, shows you specific things you can be doing, courses that you could be taking. This was for somebody who wanted to apply for marketing jobs. So again, you can see how it's kind of building that 4-week kind of plan. And then I think I popped another one in here. Yeah, the example about the recruitment agents. So yes, some help there with identifying who would the right recruitment agents be, in this case in Birmingham, and how to engage with them. And then last but not least, let's just hop over, just bear with me a second. I'm just going to check in on chat just before I do so. Okay, so Alice is saying, if we want to research the job market for a specific region, absolutely Asia Pacific. We don't currently live there. How can we use AI to research this? Along with using AI, what other steps would you recommend to do next? Great question, Alice. Absolutely, you can use AI. So, you know, many of the prompts that I've given you, you just need to weave in there the mention of, you know, specific countries you're interested in, or the region of Asia Pacific. You know, please provide a list of recruitment agents based in Sydney, Australia, that handle, I don't know, technology roles. So again, it's the same thing, just tailor it for the region that you are interested in. You've got the prompts there. And you know, the key thing to be doing alongside the AI search and using it as your thinking buddy is to try to find people who are you know, working and living potentially in that region. So join Facebook groups. Digital nomad Facebook groups are good to be part of, Alice, to really find out what is it like to live and work abroad. What are the opportunities? What are the needs in those countries? You know, if you know somebody who's teaching languages out in Thailand, what do they like? What do they not like? So using maybe alumni groups from uni, you know, you may be able to contact former students who may be living and working abroad as well. So those would be some of the things that I would recommend. But I've also got a big international network. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, happy to help there. I'm just going to get to the last point, and then we'll try to see if there's a minute or two for last questions. Obviously, final stage is your 5th stage, is all about interviews and the first 90 days in the role. So for your interviews, AI can be super useful, helping you to make sure that you're ready for those Competency-based questions. Give me an example of when you've demonstrated a particular skill. You need to have lots of STAR examples, situation, task, actions and results to answer those questions. And they need to be very specific, not just, well, I used organisation skills in my university dissertation or whatever. You've got to lay out the steps that you took in organising that particular piece of work. And make sure you're practicing out loud. You might be using an AI tool like Udly is really good. Some of you may have found that. I hope you're using it. I've been practicing with that recently, and it's brilliant because it shows you the filler words, the ums, the ahs, as a really useful tool. So I'll just pop that in chat just as a reminder if anybody isn't familiar with Udly. There is a paid version. You don't need to, there's an unpaid free version, so you don't need to be paying anything for it. But obviously you can use other tools to get them to practice. And then finally, use AI to help you in your first 90 days. So on the right-hand side in my prompts, not only have I given you prompts to help you prepare for interview and practice together, but also I've given you a prompt when you start in your new world, feeling a bit of imposter syndrome. How am I going to boost my confidence, and so on. So finally, if I just hop you over to our documents, here we go, interviews and first 90 days. I included the prompt around, I'm feeling a little bit lacking in confidence starting in my new graduate role in London as a supply chain analyst, acting as a coach, help me to present myself as positively as possible. And it gives you some really strong coaching tips, but as well some specific activities you can do to improve your knowledge of vocabulary and other courses that you might take to build your confidence. So again, hope that's really useful for you. Okay, I'm going to pause. In fact, let me just stop and pop over to the slides again. We are just about there. So really, yes, wanting to draw together key learnings from today's session. I'm hoping that it's sort of these four main areas that you're seeing AI as your thinking buddy, your thinking partner, that you're using in all aspects of your job search, that you do some personalization, some thinking yourself. Always double check what AI is telling you, humanize it, and then finally become the pilot of your own future. Really take control, be proactive, think innovatively, entrepreneurially. How can I get more experience in an area? Become self-employed. Could I do a free piece of work, etc. And then finally, please stay in touch with me. Very, very happy to help. So as we've said, all of these slides will be shared afterwards. I'm just going to pause now. Okay, I'm popping in my LinkedIn URL once again into chat. We've got 2 minutes. Let's see if we can have a quick look at any of those last questions. How to incorporate a one-off job assignment role in a CV. Dinesh, thank you for the question. Should just come chronologically, shouldn't it? I don't see that as a particular challenge. Just put it in the correct chronology, even if it's only for a few weeks or a month. Just get it in there and explain what the role responsibility was, the bullet points of the key achievement that you had in the role. Absolutely fine. Okay, I think that's more one for you, Karima, about open roles at GRB. You can perhaps follow up on that one. Let's have a little look here. Sam, international student, bachelor's degree, Mech-Eng, second year, trying, applying. No look, did some research. Times, found that. Sorry, I'm trying to read and see what the question is. How do I best try? Here we go, best shot. Eventually start to apply. Student job market's quite tricky, for instance. Absolutely, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm with you on the visa issues. Yes, I hear what you're saying, Sam, about the challenge of visa sponsorship. Where you can, try to connect with groups of people. If you've got an international background, try to find people on Facebook who have that same background, who are working here in the UK. Try to capitalize on their experiences. Try to understand what the visa implications are. How much would it really cost a future organisation? Because sometimes organisations don't realize that and think, because it may not be as significant as they might have thought. Remember, the government has a website or a link in their website which shows you which companies are already visa sponsor approved. So again, it's best to apply for those companies that are used to already sponsoring visas. So again, use that list, might be helpful for you. I'm conscious that we are at 2 o'clock and we're possibly out of time, Karima.
I mean, yeah, if you we can ask you can answer a couple more questions if you wanted to.
All right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
of course.
a problem.
Thank you, Ben, UX designer, worked on various projects across different domains, part of a course, well done. When applying for a job, should I narrow down my portfolio to focus on a specific field, such as finance? Is it better to keep it broad? Well, if there's no absolute, sorry, Ben, wishy-washy answer. There isn't an absolute right or wrong. I think you've got to always, folks, the general rule would be put yourself in the seat of the recruiter who you are trying to impress, who you are trying to convince you are the right person for this role. Okay, so it would make sense if you are applying to somebody who's sitting there in a finance seat and you've done a number of pieces of work, project study in finance, then yeah, tailor it for them and give them the finance specific ones. If obviously they're not in finance and it's broader, then give them a range, because we don't know what might interest them. Cosmas, just looking at yours, as a graduate student, when is the best time to start applying for graduate positions in your area of interest as an international student? Well, again, there isn't really, I appreciate that graduate schemes have a certain sort of life cycle and a certain, time period. But what I've tried to emphasize today is, because the market is challenging in the UK at the moment, it's throughout the year, Cosmo. So there's no particular time. I would be aware that from the middle of July through to about the first or second week in September, the market will be much quieter. The decision makers will be away. They're not going to be hiring people at that point. But the summer in the UK is a great time for networking, for relationship building, for trying to get those 15-20-minute conversations with people in organisations about what's going on there. So use your summers wisely, folks. Try and stay on in the UK. If you are an international student, try and, don't just see it as, well, I can't apply for anything. Try to get conversations with people. They might even give you some work experience, some work shadowing during the summer when things are a little bit quieter. But decision makers will be back first, second week in September. So yeah, go for it. I'm conscious of time. I am going to have to draw to a close fairly soon. Candido, you've got your hand up again. Go forth, and then we'll
Yes. So, in which ways, for example, AI can negatively affect, for example, an application? Because sometimes I saw that in some application they didn't want, for example, the help of ChatGPT, for example.
Yeah.
So, in which way can negatively affect? For example, I do my CV on ChatGPT. I do my personal statement on ChatGPT, but I'm afraid that this can negatively affect my application.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly, and it potentially will. So what I'm saying is, you need to get, and particularly if English, if you're applying to a company or an organization that needs you to speak, in English, then you need to get a native English, first language speaker to look at your CV, look at your cover letters, cover emails, your application form responses, and literally to read it, to think, does it sound human? To be frank, it's as easy as that, or as difficult as that, however you see it. There will be certain words or ways of phrasing things, and even with somebody who, again, my son, I read his cover letter, and I said, I used a particular word, authenticate, or I said, is that really your word, Alex? And I said, oh no, actually that was ChatGPT's word. So yeah, take it out. It's too complicated. Don't use complicated words that we wouldn't naturally use. Obviously, if there's certain vocab, certain technical jargon for, like UX, user experience, fair enough. But don't use particularly sophisticated English, because I'm afraid people will think Well, that's not what you would normally say. So try to get a sort of normality test. And also, Candido, use a tool like humanize.ai because and put the CV through that. That should as well help you to get a more sort of normal English into it. Buddy up with somebody who's a native English speaker as well might be useful. Okay, I think we've got one more. Sam's got hand up. Go ahead, Sam, and then we need to draw together.
My question was that, so basically I've searched and seen companies will rather hire mechanic master students, the MEng students, rather than the bachelor student. So I'm asking, how do I give my best shot, like bridging this gap? So basically, I'm trying to get some kind of certifications over the summer. So I'm going to do my SolidWorks professional exam by the end of this month. So I don't know if that's actually going to kind of bridge the gap, or
Good.
I would actually need to go for the MEng program in the end, because frankly speaking, I can't afford the MEng program right now.
Okay, fair enough. I wasn't able to hear clearly absolutely all of the question, to be honest, but I think, I don't know, a sense perhaps the gist was around, taking a qualification which may not be the most extensive kind of qualification or the more expensive qualification. Certainly employers do, obviously they appreciate and they value where you have proactively taken additional courses. So that's good. So yeah, do emphasize that on an application form or a CV. But most employers, to be frank, they're very practical, our employers, and they really like to see it when you've had practical experience. So where there is any possibility, and this is for everybody around the room today, where there's any chance of getting some, literally hands-on experience, so persuading an organization to let you come in. Could I come in and I'll work for free, I'd like to follow you around, could I follow you around for a few days in a week to see what you do? I'm happy to do some of the administrative work, I'll do anything that I can just to learn more about this particular area. If there is any way of doing that, that's very valuable and is equally well valued as having additional qualifications. They want to see that you're practical and that, or even setting up something yourself. So a lot of my graduate candidates, they literally almost become self-employed, and they start creating something, website design, and they're using some of their skills to put it into practice. And even if they're not getting very much money in payment for it, it's showing an employer that they're really motivated. If they're into marketing, again, they're doing that for free for a charity, let's say, to demonstrate their interest and skills in that area. So yeah, the more you can do to take action, the better.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, well done. All the very best. Folks, I hope that's been a useful session for you. I can see that, we're definitely going to be back in touch with you via email. We'll share with you the slides, the PDF copy that I shared with you. Obviously, very happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. And I wish you every success going forward. I hope it's been a useful session.